Welcome. Tonight we're going to have a look at our induction and go through some information that you need when you first start your course with HADA. And I'm just going to share my screen. And just let you have a look at what we've got here. Okay. So welcome to the HADA Institute of Education. We're very happy to have you on board and we look forward to seeing your work. So acknowledgement to country before we start off with our information sharing. In the spirit of reconciliation, HADA Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respects to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. So thank you for that. So welcome to HADA. We're going to have a look at the class structure in this new induction. We're going to have a look at the expectations and the practices that you'll be gaining new skills from, what to expect when you're studying, the assessments, bit of a self-care plan so you can keep studying, and who to go to get support. So let's have a look at the housekeeping. We do ask you that class participation is encouraged for your units, but you can also watch it later if you can't attend on the night that the presentations are presented. We ask that you keep your cameras on, but there might be times when you would like to turn it off or you may not want to turn it on. We leave this up to you, but we do like to see you, especially if you've got a question. Now, the professionalism, we've got to use this as a simulated classroom. So respect for everyone is very important, and remaining professional at all times reflects the job that we would like you to do in the field. Now, our class break times, so long as I'm running on time, it will be 7 to 7:10 and 8 to 8:10. We don't like to see you vaping or smoking on screen, so in those circumstances, please have your cameras off. Now, the subject matter that we talk about can be very triggering, so we would like to warn you that you need to look after yourself and remain true to yourself and what your body is actually experiencing, and make sure that you are kind to yourself. Respectful relationships is very important. Professional boundaries. Please don't share anything on chat, and we prefer you not to use chat. If you can do that for us, that would be very beneficial. Make sure that you are kind to yourself and compassionate and respectful for other people, but very important is your self-care. So make sure that you nurture your body and your mind when you are studying, because it does take a lot out of you. So if we have a look at what do you think you will need for online learning, and I want you to seriously think about your equipment. How good is your computer? Does it have a microphone? Does it have a camera? How good is your internet connection? Are they all working properly? Now, this will be good to sort of sort out before your training session to avoid any last minute panics that may happen when our IT doesn't work. So find a quiet space where you can do your and watch your videos and do your study. Try not to have too many interruptions or distractions, because it allows you to have that deep learning when you're training. So prepare your materials. What do you think you would need? Pen, paper, relevant documents. It might be some of the information about that unit while you're actually watching or you're within your Zoom class. So familiarise yourself with Zoom and how it works, and explore that platform. You might find that you might be able to put backgrounds in your own rooms so that you can have your cameras on. So set up your workspace for study. Very important to have a designated area that you are comfortable in. You can join early when you want to come into these sessions, but it's entirely up to you. We do let you in when you come. So if you're running a little bit late, that's okay. We will let you in, and they are fully recorded, so you can always go back and watch them. So the philosophy of the course is it's self-directed learning, attempts with assessments and gaining feedback. You have 3 attempts on all your questions and learning, which is amazing. Adult learning principles, you're looking at your own self-motivation and self-directions, and bringing that life experience and knowledge into the class is really good, and into your learning and the responses that you give to the questions. So managing different viewpoints professionally, we all have different ways of thinking and our worldviews are very different. So keep that in mind and be very open-minded to what is discussed. Flexible, supportive and safe learning environments for all learners is definitely what we strive for. Expectations of learners and the expectations of the teachers are also considered in this space. Self-disclosure during the classroom discussions is not encouraged. So what they say with study is it can come from within or it can be outside factors. All right, so when we think of intrinsic, we're looking at what motivates us to engage. And I always think you've got to have the purpose. What is the purpose? Why am I doing this particular course? And the extrinsic is what motivates you to do something. What do you need to make that a reality for yourself? So think about those when you're doubting yourself with your study. And have a look at a fixed versus a growth mindset. So if you've got a growth mindset, you believe that you're intelligent and that you have the talents to be able to develop new skills. In a fixed mindset, you believe that intelligence is fixed so that you don't succeed at anything. You might believe that you'll never succeed. So you've got to look at where you can expand your growth mindset to help you in your studies. Now, your feelings. It's completely normal to feel excited, overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, and overthink a lot of things when you're learning. That's why it's called learning, and it's not always easy to do. So at Hatter Institute, all our trainers and learners and our support officers are here to support you on that journey. So always reach out. You're not alone, even when you're online. Now, your assessments. All learners are expected to participate appropriately in all of these activities, classes or watch recordings, written assessments and role plays. You will participate in them all. You will be the instigator of these things. Successful outcomes of competency or not yet competent can impact on commencement of your work placement. So complete all tasks in unit. You have to have at least 50% progress to the point where you can start planning your work placement. So variety of assessments, attendance in class discussions, activities, group individual task role plays, in-class presentations, online quizzes and breakout rooms are just going to be some of the things that you will be doing throughout your course. So all of these contribute to your ongoing assessment of knowledge and skills and the ability to complete the qualification that you're doing. So it's very important that you make sure that you understand exactly what is happening within this unit of work. So attendance requirements, your dates and extensions can all be found within Hatter Institute platform. Accelerate. Referencing and plagiarism and AI, please, it must be in your own words, your work. Copying and saving work to me is something that you would do automatically, but think about doing things like that. Responsibility for your own time management is very important. And make sure that you do your submissions in the Accelerate portal. So with your assessments, you'll have questions. They'll be written. Most learners need guidance from time to time, and the LSO team can assist with the most simple clarifications as they are part of the Hatter Institute training team. You may seek a one-on-one with a trainer for further clarity or additional support to suit your learning style. And this can also be requested and provided via the booking. Remember, our trainers work in the sector and casual hours with Hatter Institute, so planning for a one-on-one is essential. Now, in this recording, you can see that there is book a meeting, or you can go to the email that is provided there, which is lso@hatterinstitute.edu.au for any questions that you have about anything. So there's going to be role plays that you're going to do for just about every unit that you are going to complete. So most role plays require you to record these and do so with another person, preferably a peer from your class maybe, if you're in the same state, or you can do them via Zoom together. Hatter manages a wait list if this is not possible. So prepare and reach out to the LSO team if needing this assistance, and book in trainer offers made in class study sessions and in your recordings updated each week. So remember to reach out. LSO is the place to go. So rolling enrollments, that means we have people that start at all different times. So everybody's at a different level and they're at a different stage in their learning journey. So the courses at Hatter Institute of Education are designed with a unique approach, enabling learners to join a program at the start of most new units. As a result, every month sees the inclusion of new learners alongside those already engaged in the program. This rolling enrolment system offers enhanced flexibility for learners, allowing them to seamlessly enter or exit programs based on credit transfers, recognition of prior learning. Additionally, it caters to individuals facing unforeseen circumstances who may need to temporarily defer their studies and pick up again when they are at a greater availability. So there's flexibility around your work. So connecting with a trainer, as you can see, if you prefer, you can book a learner support meeting through this link in our induction slides. Please make the appointment with your trainer via Candidly through your portal. Trainers are available for learning support sessions at various times. Your trainer will give you the Candidly link in classes or book in with our LSO team. And I go to the one source. LSO are there to help you use them. If you are having issues with Accelerate, assessing your assignments, IT related, getting into class, or glitches with your modules, please reach out to the learning support team. Their email is listed there. To me, that would be somewhere close handy near my computer when I was studying. All right. So thank you for listening to the induction for Hatter Institute. And I'm just going to stop sharing and stop the recording. So thank you very much.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi,
Can
Vicky.
you hear me, Vicky?
Welcome. Yeah, welcome everyone. So we're going to have a quick chat to Vicky, our program manager from Hatter Institute. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Vicky. Thank you, Vicky.
That's great. Thanks so much. I just want to say a big hi, and I've missed all you guys on the Tuesday night, but I know how amazing Vicky's classes are. I wanted to be able to just introduce for everyone around our role play scheduling, to let you know that while Vicky is in your classes on a Tuesday night, that we have opened up more time slots for everybody to be able to jump in and be part of role plays if you don't have a client to work with, or if perhaps you just want to do a rehearsal, watch somebody else do a role play. So from the 1st of September, we've opened up a lot more hours and times for everybody. Prior to that, though, I know if you're sitting on a wait list, just to let you know that we see you there and we're ready to be able to jump in. But the 1st of September is before we have availability. So there are a couple of changes in role plays. If you're doing them on your own, just to let you know that you need to be able to make sure that you have your photo ID. So if this was my photo ID, you would put that near your face. Okay, when you introduce yourself, and in the background, not like what I've got tonight, because I'm in Calliope waiting for my 7th grandchild to arrive, who is 3 days overdue at the moment. But you need to be able to follow your instructions absolutely to the letter. One of those things is recreate a simulated workplace environment, which means your background, like what Vicky has got about, I work at Hayter, you need to be able to duplicate something that is what you would see in a youth work environment. So, hey, Lachlan, thank you so much. I'm pretty wrapped, by the way, but it's 3 days overdue. So, yeah, I just want to let you know you can still book me for one-on-one. Vicky lets me know where everyone's up to. I know an amazing Tuesday night class you all are. And to also let you know that that we have availability to be able to book one-on-one, but we need to link you with another learner to be the client. If you want the trainer to be the client for you, we can't always be the assessor at the same time. So just so that you know how that works. Have I got any questions from the class? So I'd be super happy to be able to answer any of those just briefly.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Virginia.
Hi,
Just
Virginia.
brain new to do all this. And I'll be
Yes.
honest with you, I got a meeting tomorrow just for half an hour, just because I haven't got no idea where to start from doing a
Okay.
role play.
Yeah. It's actually a lot, isn't it, Virginia? Just to
It
let
is
you
a lot.
know, I would find that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. I
Oh, can I
Yes.
wouldn't
just
mind
put
just
the mute on, please?
watch someone.
So, Vicky, are you okay with just muting Rachel while she gets her tech sorted? Yeah, wonderful. So, Virginia, I understand. So in your Cert IV, in youth work, you have between 11 and 14 role plays to do in your whole qualification.
Okay.
What's amazing is you are not alone in this space.
Okay.
So, Hayter have, we have what we call our learner support officers, and Vicky will give you the email address. But for those of you who've got pen and paper beside you, lso@hayterinstitute.edu.au will get you a learner support officer who will make sure that I get every request for a learner who needs someone to help them with the role play.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're right. So there's about 4 that you must have an assessor with you, and they're our group. So CHCPRT025, 002. There's a couple of others in there, but most of them, it asks you to get a family friend, or a colleague from class. But if you don't have that, or you feel more comfortable to have a trainer there in that space, then the LSO at haiderinstitute.edu.au will come directly to me. And I will put you on a wait list, and I'll find another learner who's looking for the exact same one. Or if you need one-on-one, then I will make an adjustment for you, and I will do that in that space. So
That'll be wonderful.
You're welcome. So Vicky has let me know how everyone's going, which you're doing really, really well. Turning up for classes, attempting your written assessment, that is the work that you can do independently. But the LSO team, if you've got a question, they can go into your page, they can have a look at where you're up to. They can even help you with some really simple questions. If it's something more complex, though, they will refer you back to me, and I will find a trainer for you if I am not that person one-on-one.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I feel much better now.
Good. That's
you.
great. So just know that Vicky is sharing the information from classes. And tonight you have Blake, who is going to be co-facilitating. Now, I've known Blake for years, an amazing trainer, excellent youth worker. And he's going to be in this space co-facilitating, because you guys on a Tuesday night are a huge class and we want to give you more personalised attention. So Vicky will lead how that space looks, and then between Blake and Vicky, they will work out how to actually break it down so that it's 2 smaller classes, if that's what you need, to be able to make sure you get that real personalised attention from us at Hader.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Virginia. Welcome to Hader.
Thank you.
You have a question, Christine?
Yeah, hi, Vicky.
Hey.
I met up with Helen yesterday, and I was just having trouble with my background, and I ended up having to take it off because it blurred my face too much. And she wasn't able to give me guidance to how to fix that. So, yeah, just not able to off this background.
Well, what I can see right now, to me, says simulated workplace environment. So I would be really happy with that background you've got right now.
Okay, great. No, that's fine.
And I know that's a tricky one, isn't it? But what I want you to do, so I've had people who have had backgrounds like outdoors in youth work. That is actually pretty typical. In the gutter at 3 a.m. in the morning, also pretty typical. But if you can't get that background just the way you want to, I would ask you in a role play, tell me what your perfect consult room looks like. What's on the wall? What posters do you have? What's a youth-friendly environment? And if you can tell me what that is in your recording, I accept that as an assessment, and I would pass that for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so put your ID up and say, hey, this really is me, Christine. And then in the background, just say, while you can't see everything in my recording, just know that I've got First Nation posters, I've got strength-based posters, I've got lots of plants because it lifts the mood, I've got water in front of them, I've got lollies in front of them, I've got whatever it is that you would think would be your perfect simulated workplace environment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
From Lachlan.
Hello, Vicky. How are you?
I'm great, Lachlan. Good to see you.
You too. Just a quick one from me. I'm just wondering if we're going forward, are we still able to do one-on-ones with yourself and record them and then submit them that way?
Absolutely. Yes, we are. So, when, thank you for raising that too, Lachlan, because when a learner says, look, I really need that one-on-one because of whatever reason, and that's your preference, as long as you request it, we can make that arrangement. So yes, Lachlan, you just let me know, you send me an email, which is what you do. Well, I don't have to talk for you. How do you organise your role plays? Tell the rest of the class.
I email Vicky straight up and organise a time for that. And then if it's a role play where it needs to be assessed by someone else, we'll go on Google and record it. And the other one we'll just do Zoom, and then Vicky can be the assessor. So I'll find that works better because I've only got one day off during the week. So Wednesdays work best for me, and I don't really have anyone else to do a role play with. So yeah.
No, that's great. And
Yeah.
and what I want to acknowledge, Lachlan, how great you are in progressing and managing your own role plays, is that you always let me know this is the unit that I'm doing and this is the task. So you are ready when you jump into that space. So there's some supporting documents from time to time, and that's what I need everybody to be able to do if they want a one-on-one with me, knowing that I work full-time. And when you plan ahead, I absolutely will step into that space for you. So yeah, good to see you, Lachlan, and you're doing great, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vicky.
Yeah, thanks.
I've got a question from Sophie.
Hey, Sophie.
Hi, Vicky. Nice to see you.
You too.
Just a couple of questions. I've been recording my role plays so far with family members and uploading them that way. I think you mentioned at the start that there were some that we have to do with an assessor. Is that will it say in the assessment, like it will let me know which ones those are?
It will, yes, absolutely. So it will say, good question too, by the way, and then how do we make that happen? So because we have rolling starts at Hader, we never know when a learner is ready, and it is quite self-paced. So when it says in the instructions, must be done with an assessor in real time, absolutely, that is what you must do. So you need to let either Vicky know in class or LSO at haderinstitute.edu.au, or you can come straight to me, Vicky, which is VIKI, at haderinstitute.edu.au, and let me know that you're ready. So there's a couple that need a group, and they're the ones that usually require an assessor in real time. How do we make that happen is you need to let us know when you're ready. So it might say with an assessor in real time, but we don't know when you're ready. And so you've got to let us know what that is. We don't just have a training schedule and say whatever. But what do I do on a Saturday? I usually do role plays when I'm not waiting for a granddaughter to arrive. So from the 1st of September, I can blitz open Saturdays and Sundays. But right up until now, it is really tricky because we're trying to get some learners who must complete within the next 3 weeks. And I'm just trying to catch them up because everybody has rolling starts. But Sophie, I'm really happy. If you reach out, I will do that. Vicky has let me know how everyone is going and you're doing great. But if you've got one that says needs an assessor in real time, please flag me. I'm happy to do that. Or the LSO team, they will put it into, we keep a wait list, and I will try and find a few learners, but I won't let you sit in the wait list beyond 7 days if I have another learner to put that in. Otherwise, I have to reach out to you and say, listen, let's go, let's do this, and I will come at it another way for you.
No, that's
and
good.
we'll,
I just wanted to,
yeah,
I just wanted to check that it will actually say that, because the ones that I've done so far, it's given me 2 options, so, like to do it with an assessor and or upload it. So I've just been doing my own. But if I get to one that says that I have to do it that way, I'll just reach out.
Okay, and it's a really good point. So Sophie, if you're almost there, some people may get their role plays sent back, and I don't want you to see that as a fail. I want you to see that as we just need another step in the process, which means your blurred background absolutely reaches that threshold that I'm looking for, that my photo ID in the camera that says it is you, Sophie, that's what you must do as well. So we're going to say it because the instructions that you're reading also say in a simulated workplace environment. So you must say, I'm in a consult room, I'm working with a young person, anything, it's all hypothetical. We know the clients aren't really there. So what we want you to do is describe the room that you're in, because otherwise we've got nothing that duplicates it. Now, if you've sent in a role play and it's not there yet, know that all we're going to do is I'm going to phone you up and I'm going to say, Sophie, tell me about the room that you're working with a young person, and I will get you over the line. So it just means that there's just one other part that needs to be in there. I'm not asking you to do your role play again.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Sophie.
For you, Vicky's Kirsten.
Hello.
Hey, how
How
are you?
Good, thank you. Just quickly, I know you're waiting on a little grand baby, so I did some role plays over the weekend. I didn't show my ID though. Do I have to redo them?
No.
Okay. I
I'm not
just realized, yeah.
And I'm not going to ask you to do that, but could you please send me an email directly and just let me know, and I will go in and mark that for you.
Okay, perfect.
And in your email, describe the room that you're doing the consulting.
Perfect. Thank you. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
you and I have sat one-on-one enough where I know you are you.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you. I was just,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Enjoy
no,
the baby.
Thank you. Thank you. Very excited here. Okay, so Vicky, do you want me to jump out and let you run your class tonight?
No worries. No, that was wonderful. Thank you, Vicky.
All right. So anything you need, Vicky, just let me know. But I've heard amazing things about you guys on a Tuesday night. So keep up the great work. I'm seeing your assessments come through. So know that we're here for you. And so is Vicky, who's doing an amazing job. You're going to absolutely really enjoy having Blake in the space. Like I said, I've worked in the same training room with Blake face to face, who has got incredible skills, especially in the youth work sector. And we've worked together in other roles as well. So I was pretty excited that I could reach out and say to Blake, you know, we've got such a big class on a Tuesday night. Please come in and join our team and be part of that space as well. So I'll check out tonight. Vicky, thank you so much for giving me some time with your
Excuse me,
group.
Vicky.
Yes,
Sorry,
Sophie.
I think Mohammed had his hand up.
Oh, sorry, of course.
Yeah. Hi, Vicky.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yes, just a quick question. How can we get the ID to put up what during the assignment? The ID, like you were talking about, how can we
You can just good question, thank you. You can write your name, but usually it's photo ID, and you just start with that. Know that this is private and confidential. When you're recording, it comes into a very secured space, and within 28 days it's gone. So it does not last, only the evidence that we have marked it lasts. So have you got any form of ID that has a photo with it?
So can you use your driver license?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay. Second question. So how often or how many days are you available for one-on-one? Because I actually wanted to have like a one-on-one with you.
Okay, except for Tuesdays, because I work in court roster on Tuesdays. I'm usually available most days, but give me a few days lead in time. I absolutely will make myself available. So I work 40 hours a week for Hader, but I want to let you know my math is not great. So it's about 60 or 80. So I'll fit you in.
Okay.
All
you
you've
so
got to
much.
do is, make a request. I'll make it happen.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. How's that, Vicky? Can I that's great.
Is anybody else that for the question? All right, lovely. Thank you, Vicky.
Great. Good night. Have a wonderful night. See you soon, Vicky.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, good night. Bye.
Lovely. Thank you. And thank you for your questions. They were absolutely wonderful. All right. It always sheds light on the more information that we can get in training, I think the better. All right. So we're already 6:20, so we're running a little bit behind, but I am going to share my screen with you and have a look at what we're going to do tonight.
Just Vicky, I've just answered Jordan's question in the chat. I hope you
All
don't
right.
mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No worries. Let's have a look at that. And oops. All right. So you've got your here we go. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, I'll have a look at the chat when we finish our slideshow. All right. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So what we've got in here is CHCPRT025, and it's identify and report children and young people at risk. You are working in this sector, so it's going to be something that you're going to have to seriously think about when you are working on a daily basis. So we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we work, study and live, and pay our respects to elders past, present and future. We celebrate the stories, culture and traditions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of all the communities who also work and live on this island, on this land, which is an island. All right, lovely. So we're just going to have a look at our housekeeping, which we do on a constant basis. So cameras on if you can. If you don't want them on, you don't have to have them on, but we do like, if you've got a question, please do put your cameras on. Keep your microphones on mute until you're going to speak, and that's when we always forget to turn them on. But keep them on mute, it helps with the sound. We've got breaks from 7 to 7:10, 8 to 8:10, 7 to 7:10 might be a little bit later. We'll see how we go. Class participation, we love you to put up your little hand sign if you can find it on your screen. That always helps us. And then if you see one that we haven't picked up, yeah, please let us know. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Respectful relationships. I've never known anyone in this class to be disrespectful. So well done to that. But be mindful of what we say, and especially in this space with this topic. No smoking or vaping on screen. Thank you very much. Remember, the content that we do may be triggering for you. So I want you to make sure that you understand your body and the feelings in your body, and make sure that you are kind to yourself, please. So if you need to get off camera, take our breaks when we have them. Don't stay on screen. Have that time to get up and move around. It will help you be able to last the whole session. So please look after yourselves. And as it says here, now in the learner guide, it discusses topics in relation to abuse, sexual assault, violence, and this may be difficult and trigger painful memories for some readers. So First Nations learners are advised that the following content discusses topics in relation to the stolen generation and that are sensitive and confronting, which may be difficult and trigger painful memories for some students. So be aware of that. If you need support, please reach out to a trusted friend or family member, speak to your community support, or call Lifeline 131114. All right. So be aware of that. The content can be very heavy in these units. So we've done our housekeeping, our emergency procedures. Well, if your house is on fire, we're going to watch. But hopefully, if you've got your, have you got emergency procedures for when you study at home? We have to have them if we work from home. So think about that. Think about that. Even think about that in your role plays too. So we're going to have a look at the unit outline and structure. We're going to have a look at the assessment requirements. The submission dates are in your Accelerate, so please have a look at those, because they will be different for everyone. So what one student has as a submission date may not be yours. All right. So an overview of this unit. Child protection and child abuse is going to be discussed in session 1. In session 2, we're going to have a look at the legal framework. Session 3, we're going to have a look at the ethical considerations. And if we can get those done tonight, I think we've done a marvellous job. Session 4 is child-focused practices and skills, trauma-informed care. And session 5 is responding to potential abuse and harm. So we've got some pretty heavy topics that are in the mix for learning in this unit. Now, some of the slides will have your recordings that you need to have a look at. So I want you to make sure that you do have a look at the recordings when they come up. You'll have to do this in your own time. We wouldn't have enough time in this short
session that we do. So child protection and child abuse. So by the end of this session, we're hoping that you will understand the meaning of abuse and neglect, the types of abuse that can happen, how abusers coerce and manipulate children into keeping abuse secrets, how some physical and behavioural indicators of abuse need to be recognised and responded to. So children's basic rights in relation to abuse and neglect, and they do have rights. Assessing information about child abuse and neglect is something that you will need to do in the course of your work. So what is abuse and neglect? Abuse is the intentional infliction of harm. Neglect is a failure to protect or provide for a child's needs. So there are differences with abuse and neglect. You will be asked questions on these, so I want you to make sure that you think about these and respond appropriately to those questions. Now here there is a research and discuss section within the slideshow. Have a look at the statistics that are within that website. It's from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. You will be amazed at some of the information that you find out there. All right, so there's different types of abuse. So there's the physical, which usually has an intentional injury to a child. There's sexual, engaging with a minor in a sexual act. There's grooming, manipulating a child into sexual activities. Psychological and emotional abuse, using psychological bullying as a primary means of abuse. And then there's neglect, a child not being provided with their basic survival needs. So when they ask you in a question for what types of abuse there are, there you go. So very important to remember that there are different types of abuse. I'll just let Amos in. All right. So it's very important that we make sure that we understand what child abuse is. So I would like you to watch this video. It only goes for 2 minutes and 48 seconds, but I would like you to do that in your own time. So if you looked at these slides, you would know that this particular slide is one of the recordings that you would like to see. And of course, at the end of the recordings, when you get that link, it also hopefully will have these recordings in it as well. So we need to understand cultural diversity. So the idea about child abuse varies from culture to culture. Children from cold backgrounds were less likely to have contact with the child protection system than non-cold children. So when working with children, inclusive spaces that embrace culture need to be created. We need to remember that culture is a big part of people's lives, so we need to consider that when we're looking at child abuse. So people who abuse and neglect children, they can come from any denomination in life. It doesn't really matter. So people who abuse and neglect children can be their carers, can be their parents, can be child migrant schemes, institutions charged with caring for children, and also sometimes abuse and neglect the children that they care for. So it can come from different areas. So we must remember that it's not just within the family home that abuse and neglect happen. I also want you to have a look at this, do a bit of research, get onto this website and have a look. It's about the stolen generation, and it really opens our mind to what has happened. And it gives us more understanding. So people who abuse and neglect children. So there's positive factors that can come into play. Conditions or attributes in a child or young person's environment that enhances their resilience and can reduce their risk of experiencing abuse or neglect. That is a protective factor. But some of the risk factors could be that the increase, the likelihood of abuse and neglect might be very high. So we have to look at the protective factors, but then we have to look at the risk factors as well. So indicators of abuse. A single indicator is not conclusive evidence, but it may bring up a what we call in the industry is a red flag, something that we think may be of concern, and it may have to be explored a little bit further. So your learner's guide on chapter 1.5 will have a lot of that information within it. So please use that learner's guide. So skills for identifying indicators of risk or harm. You have to use your observation skills. Even when you write your reports, I observed this. Factual. It can't be an assumption. It must be factual. So I observed this when I was talking to our young Justin. I observed what he was doing and what he was saying and how he was saying it. So gathering and recording information is vital in these instances, and it has to be facts. We learn questioning skills because we need to sometimes go deeper into what is happening with that young person. It might be that we need to use questioning to build rapport so that that young person will open up to us. So we need to be aware of the questions that we use and what is the answer we're trying to get from that question, and make it age appropriate as well. Very important that it needs to be age appropriate. So indicators of physical abuse. Bruises in unlikely places, inconsistent or absent explanations of bruising, pressure marks of welts, multiple fractures from different times, or a fracture that's never been healed properly, was never dealt with, suspicious burns, signs of poisoning or over-medicating. So you may get a question that asks you to list some of the physical abuse that can happen. And you will get that from your slides here. Indicators. So we're always looking for what is going on for that young person. Why are they avoiding going home? Why do they keep running away and staying at a friend's house? Why is this inherent fear of the dark and bedwetting still continuing? Why do they have a poor self-image and poor self-esteem? What has led to that? And why do they have a lack of trust with adults? And sometimes it wouldn't matter who the adults were. Or are they lying or stealing for no apparent reason? These can be some of the indicators of emotional and psychological abuse. It's not a direct science, but we have to look at some of those things. Is our young person saying some of those things? Most of the time they'll have a lack of trust in adults. So very important to know the indicators. Let's have a look at the indicators of sexual abuse. So indicators of sexual abuse can be that genital injuries, bite marks or unexplained marks on the body, changes in sleep patterns. I always ask my clients about their sleep. How do they sleep? You know, it's to me, it's very important. It's as important as what are you eating? So inappropriate sexual behavior, inappropriate sexual language or knowledge surrounding that child's age. How did they get that information from? How did they know what that meant? So sometimes these can be easy things that you start to question. You're starting to get curious about what's going on. Some of the indicators of neglect. A failure to thrive. Well, if you think of a small child, not getting fed properly is definitely one of the ones that is on the top of the list, especially with child safety. Prone to illness, their immune system is very low. Abnormally high appetites, they start hiding food. Dirty or smelly appearances, they're just not looking after their hygiene, they're just not looking after themselves. They just don't feel good enough about themselves to look after themselves. Change in eating and sleeping patterns. It's a big deal. It needs to be asked. Those questions need to be asked. All right, another one that I would like you to watch here is a YouTube video. It's the signs and indicators of abuse. I would like you to have a look at this. This will help you in answering the questions that you need to within this unit. All right. We're going to do one more slide and then we're going to think about our breakout rooms. So the social economic issues and child safety, parental stress, poverty and crisis, discrimination from public institutions. Let's have a look at those a little bit deeper. So with parental stress, unstable housing can cause that. Unemployment, a lack of access to quality services makes life so much more difficult when you haven't got people supporting you when you need that support. This may exacerbate a mental health condition and other problems, including drug-related problems, alcoholism, relationship breakdowns, may lead to violence. So let's look at poverty and crisis. If families living in poverty encounter difficult situations, they are less likely to have access to support services that will help them to recover. It is therefore more difficult to bounce back from a crisis when you're in poverty. And our discrimination from public institutions, this includes child protection services, police and courts. More likely to get attention from child protection services for issues that don't necessarily indicate abuse. But they sometimes will get into that space. Now there's a case study within the Learner's Guide. It's in that first chapter. It's good to look through these case studies and just see what you can pull out of them. Because in your role plays, you need to observe and you need to do things. So it's good to have a look at the case studies and just see what's involved with it. All right. Now the impacts of abuse and neglect is another area that we have to look at, because it does impact different areas of our lives. So there's physical damage, there's developmental damage, especially if the abuse starts when the female is pregnant. There's mental health issues with abuse and neglect. There's social problems. We have trouble connecting with people because of it. And then we have behavioural issues, which everybody sort of focuses on, but they don't necessarily see why we're having those behavioural issues. We've really got to narrow it down to what do we believe is happening for this young person, for anyone actually in that situation. Doesn't necessarily have to be a young person. These impacts may be short-term, they may be long-term. And the last one that we'll have before we go to our breakout rooms is the types of prenatal abuse. So if you have a look at these, we know from statistics that there is physical, emotional, and psychological abuse that occurs during pregnancy. It's a bit of a phenomenon. We're not quite sure why exactly this does happen. There's been research on it, but it does affect a lot of pregnant women. And I'll just go through the indicators of prenatal abuse. This is when you are pregnant, delayed prenatal care. You may not be able to access care. There could be physical injuries, emotional stress, distress, substance abuse, low birth weight for the babies, premature labour, and fetal distress. And depending the substance abuse, depending the fetal distress, and just what will happen in that space. Yes, but it can be very dangerous, very dangerous. This is another piece of research that I would like you to have a look at. It's about children's rights, and it comes from the Australian Human Rights Commission. So please have a look at that as well. That is something that you will be quoting within your work when you're working with young people. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to have a look at what are the role plays that we're doing within this unit. So bear with me. And I will find, if I can find my A. All right. So let's have a look at this. This is the start of your role plays, and we're going to have a look at them in our breakout rooms, because I think it doesn't hurt us to have that practice. So when you're looking at your role plays, I want you to set up a quiet area where you can conduct the role play. The role play takes place following the interactions described in the scenario, so you have to match that. The student will play the employee at First Access Community Centre. Now, First Access Community Centre is the simulated organisation that we use at ADA. So they have all sorts of forms and policies and procedures and code of conducts and all sorts of things that we can find that we would find in a normal organisation. So please go into it and find what you need for your work within there. So the student, whose name is, and I wrote it down, so Margot is our First Access employee, and they are coming to meet a young fellow by the name of Justin, who is showing signs of potential abuse within his home life. So you will play the role of the 5-year-old Justin, who is upset and initially unwilling to provide further details regarding his interactions with his mother's boyfriend, Paul, at home. When you open up to Margot, so this is Justin opening up to Margot in relation to the situation at home with Paul, the boy discloses the following information. So you've got to have someone playing a 5-year-old who discloses. Finally, he's reluctant at start, but he finally discloses. Paul has hit me across the legs and buttocks. There are marks from a buckle across the back of his little legs. And you need to sort of get up and say, look at my legs. You know, so that person playing the 5-year-old needs to get into the part. Paul left after this, saying some horrible things to him and saying that if he told his mother, he would hit him and he would come back and finish him off. So the person playing the child needs to show the fear of what that does to someone, that threatening, coercive, controlling type of secret holding that they make them do. The next one, you went to bed. As far as you know, Mum didn't know that Paul had been at the house. So Mum is unaware of what has sort of happened here. So we tell Margot that you are frightened of Paul and you're frightened that he will hurt you if you told someone what had happened. So our little 5-year-old's got to be able to explain that. The student should give guidance and age-appropriate decisions. Now, for example, you would tell little Justin that we really should tell your mum about this if she doesn't know. You can't send him to the police at 5. You would have to go with him, but it might be that, what did I write? I will have to let the police know what you've disclosed to me. How about we get Mum on board so that she can help us be able to speak to the police with you. So as the conversation progresses, Justin agrees to talk to the police, but he'd like his mum there with him when he does that. So that's your role play. And what I would like you to do in your breakout rooms is have a think about, if I was the youth worker, what sort of things am I going to say to him when this little fella discloses this sort of stuff? We can't sort of sit there dumbfounded with our mouths open. We really need to respond appropriately to them. And this is what we look for in your role plays. How empathetic were you with the young fella? How much did you build up that rapport and get him to open up about what he was doing? So we're going to halve the class. So there's going to be quite a few people in each one. I'm just going to stop sharing and stop recording. So thank you for going into the 2 breakout rooms and having a look at the role play task 3 part A for this. I was in room 2. So Blake, would you be able to give us a description of what happened in room 1?
Yeah, so we covered everything. We didn't quite get to the end, but covered most of it. And a point that I added into it is, it's whenever you're having a conversation with a youth, it's always let them lead the conversation. Sort of don't come in as the authority or anything like that. Like, and never ask those direct questions. Always ask, how are they feeling? Are you comfortable? Do you think this is what we should do? Do you think that we should talk to this person? Yeah, always let them.
Yep.
I asked that question, Vicky. I was a bit I asked Blake the question of what's the best thing to say without saying, because young Justin said, oh, Mum will be upset and Mum will be angry. You don't want to say, no, Mum won't be angry, because you don't know that and you don't want to assume she won't be. So yeah, that was awesome by Blake to say, let them lead the conversation. I found that point very good. Yeah. And well just reassure them that it is a safe place. And
yeah. Well, we need to tell them, is Mum's safe? Mum's a safe place for you. And we need to include Mum in this, you know. It might be that he thinks that Mum's going to get angry because of what Paul has said. So that may be a lead on from that. But how did you guys find doing that in your breakout room? Was it helpful for when you have to do these role plays?
I'll definitely say yes. I'll definitely wrote a few pointers down here for my role play. So yeah, I definitely took advantage of that. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Did you play the 5-year-old, Lachlan?
No, I did.
Well done, Crystal.
I even threw the word mommy in there.
Well done. And we were supposed to get up and show you the bruises, but I'm going, no.
Oh yeah.
I'm not.
After I said it, I looked down, like, there it is.
Yep, there it is. Yep, well done. Yeah. It helps us be able to go, oh, what do I do now? Oh, what do I do now? Oh, what do I do now? And sometimes we just need to stop and go, what do you think about that? Justin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because
just let them process it. Remember, they can't think as fast as us. We've got to let them process that. And then we work from there. Yeah, great. All right, so we're 7:05, so I'm 5 minutes over time, so I'm sorry about that. So it will be, now I want 10 minutes break for everybody. I want you to move away from your computers, stretch your back. We've all been sitting in the one position for far too long. Move away from your computers, get water, tea, coffee, whatever you need to do. I will see you back in exactly 10 minutes. And because you're all over the place, just look at your clock. 10 minutes time, I'll be back. All right, no worries. Thank you so much. Good work.
thank you.
Stop
Sorry,
recording.
Vicky, before you run off.
All right, welcome back. We've just had our first break and we're going to head back into our slideshow again. I'd like to thank everybody for their work in the breakout rooms. It's good to be able to participate and to watch things like that, so that we get a real idea of what we need to do in that space. Because sometimes we get stuck with what we need to say, and sometimes the best thing when you are having trouble with your words is silence. So remember that. And waiting for that young person to respond. So you don't have to fill the void all the time. All right. So if we have a look at rights-based approach, which is something that we put into place when we're doing these role plays. So we have a look at that young person, and we figure out how best can we empower that young person. And sometimes just giving them a voice encourages that empowerment. It might be, how are we going to get them to participate? What can I do? It needs to be done in that rights-based approach. Equality and equity. So we need to think of those when we're looking at a rights-based approach when we work with young people. All right. Just going to move this along because we're way down here. All right. So think about that when you're doing some of your work, and especially when you're writing your notes. You could say, coming from a rights-based approach, I empowered young Justin to do some art therapy by colouring in to help him get more comfortable and relax and feel safe in this space. So you've just covered empowerment and participation in that. All right.
Almost a what?
Sorry, was there a question? Nope.
No, sorry. I'm not
Sorry?
talking to you. This is student, sorry, I'm just talking to someone there.
I can't quite hear what you're saying. It's yeah, but anyway, we've got question and answer time at the end of the slide, so we can certainly have a look at any questions that you have in that space. All right, so we've looked at our case study. I would like you to have a look at those if you can. This is in chapter 2.2. And it's a good case study to think about what you need to do in that space. So child protection in Australia. Child protection is a legislation. Child protection has authorities, and they have a lot of authority. And child protection and support systems is what we need to put in place when children are in that child protective system. So the number of First Nations children in out-of-home care, which is a part of the child safety regime, now exceed the number removed throughout the stolen generation. But then I wonder if the stolen generation never ended, but instead just morphed into child protection. So that was a researcher and a social worker. Makes you stop and think, doesn't it? All right. Very good. Now, in this section here, in this chapter 2.3, they discuss First Nations children are more likely to be removed. So I want you to have a look at that activity and just familiarize yourself with that. We need to know this stuff. So keeping our kids safe, understanding cultural safety in child safety organizations. I would like you to watch this video. Very important for you to get an understanding. I'll just let Rem in, to get an understanding of what happens in that space. So it explains the 10 national principles of child safety organisation and what that looks like through Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultural lens. So please watch that. It will give you more insight into what you need to do in this space. We want you to research, and there's a link there for reports on child protection. So we want you to have a look at that and really digest that information. Look at it, read it, understand it. Be aware of what is happening in that space, because you want to work in that space. So you need to be aware. Mandatory reporting is something that is constant in a lot of the work with youth. So authorised, required and made compulsory by law. It is very important that we do report, and it could be to our supervisor and then to child safety, especially when we're looking at abuse and neglect. Certain occupations are mandated to report. Now, with the group, I'm going to throw it out there. Who are mandatory reporters within certain occupations?
Doctors and nurses one.
Thank you, Sophie. Yes, you are correct.
Teachers?
Doctors and nurses.
Yeah, hold up.
Natalie?
Teachers.
Teachers, absolutely. Teacher aides.
Daycare workers.
Psychologists?
Daycare workers. Did you say that at the same time? That was amazing. Well done.
Youth workers.
Youth workers, absolutely.
Psychiatrists? Psychologists?
Yes. Yes.
Ambulance
So-
drivers, police,
Good.
anyone in
Good.
those sort of protective services.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I work in a like fast food restaurant. I'm a manager. If I have someone that under the age of 16 and I see that kind of thing, am I required to report that kind of things
If
as
they
as
disclose,
the employer?
yeah, if you can, absolutely you can. If they disclosed something to you or you were concerned and you felt you needed to do something about that, then absolutely. Absolutely. You can make a child safety report online. They do ask you for a fair bit of information, but if you've got a reasonable amount of information, you would have to ask them for their consent, and depending on how old they were, you would need parental consent. But if you find that there's something that is not right, and they have disclosed, then you've got your evidence.
What age is considered for parental consent?
You can do what we call a Gillick report, which is
Yep.
anyone that is under 16 but has the mental capacity to be able to understand what is happening in that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
be careful with that, but also be aware of your employees. That's really cool. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, good work. Now, there's some variations across the states and territories. Absolutely, they are. We can never align completely all across Australia. Voluntary reporting is possible. Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. I think if we don't report and then something happens, we can you know, really beat ourselves up about that. All right, we have done one section of the session, so I'm going to keep going because we have quite a bit to get through. So we'll keep going and have a look at our ethical considerations. And when we're working in this space, we have a lot of ethical dilemmas happen, and we have a lot of ethical considerations that we need to make. So by the end of this section, you're going to know about the rights of children regarding ethical considerations. You're going to look at the key ethical principles for working with children and young people, where to locate relevant codes of ethics, a range of ethical concerns you may be faced with. And we're going to have a look at appropriate responses to ethical concerns, which I think will help you immensely. So let's move through this. We don't necessarily get you to do a warm-up activity because we're all online. So let's have a look at the general ethical principles. Now be aware of these. Reverence, justice and equity, respect, accountability and transparency, confidentiality. Now, confidentiality is a big one, so we have to be careful with what we do with other people's information. All right? And we need to include parents as much as possible in that situation. But if they're not there, then we can use a Gillick report. I want you to have a look at this in the Learner's Guide. It's another case study. Get what you can from them, use them, they're there. So the role of personal values, beliefs and ethics. Now we all have them, but do we really understand them or know what they are for each of us? So values is a fundamental belief about what is worthwhile and good. They are your values. What is worthwhile, what is good. Now your beliefs are something different again. The thoughts that a person perceives to be true. The thoughts that a person perceives to be true. So with young children, they think a lot of things are the truth. All right. So be aware of that. Now, ethics, standards and principles or guidelines that indicate what is right and moral. So remember that, because sometimes we get ethics mixed up. What is ethics? So remember, it's a standard and principles or guidelines that indicate what is right and moral. What would happen if you came across something and you did nothing about it? You would feel if something happened. So that's why we always report. Right, respecting diversity. Respect the diversity of the children's identity and experiences. So we need to know about that child to be able to support them in a way that is going to be beneficial for them. Living with a disability can also come up with abuse and neglect. So children living with a disability may be more vulnerable to abuse and neglect. There's many children in the child safety realm that have got severe disabilities and have been relinquished by their parents. So have a look at the Learner Guide, chapter 3.2, and just read about what can happen in that space. All right. So transgender, gender diverse, and non-binary children. So family members and others may abuse children who express their gender fluidity. So it might be that they don't agree with what the child is going through, and they cause a lot of confusion for that child. So that's something to go into, and I want you to have a look at the Learner's Guide, chapter 3.2, and learn a little bit more about that. So Effective interventions and support for vulnerable children and young people. Please watch this. It does go for 16 minutes, so be prepared to sit there for that long. It will give you good insight into effective interventions, and that's what you will be doing. So it's worth that 16 minutes. All right. And sources of information on ethical principles and practices, and that's where we're going to stop the slides tonight. So I've got 56. Okay. So to act ethically, responsibly, we need to act within the law. Well, we all know that. If we go outside the law, we will usually get into trouble. So check job role descriptions and duty statements. What is your duty of care in this role? What is your role description? What are you responsible for? Where are your boundaries? It's good to read through your job description to know exactly where you stand within that job. And then consider, am I stepping outside of my boundaries? We always have to follow industry standards, and they can change as the law can as well. And really consider your duty of care. Have I done everything that I can to make sure that that person is safe? All right. And your industry standards are always your policies and procedures within that organisation. So that's as far as I'm going to take you with your slide.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, Emma?
Hello.
Yep. Emma, you've got a question?
Hello.
You can't hear us, Emma? No? Okay. All right. I'm just going to stop sharing. All right. And I'm just going to go through before we go into our second breakout room. I'm going to read you the role play for it. It is task 4 part A. But before I do that, in both of these scenarios, you need to speak to your manager or supervisor and tell them how the session went. So very important that you remember that in that session, you need to write down what happened, what was said, what you did, what you observed, and then report that to your manager or supervisor. So it's very important that your information, your case notes
Hello,
stay.
can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Emma. Did you have something to say, Emma? No? Okay, I will continue. All right, we'll let Mohammed
Hello,
in.
can anyone hear me?
Let me see if I do that. Will that help?
Hello.
Hey, Emma, can you hear
Hello?
us now? No. Doesn't look like we're having much luck with Emma's sound for us. Okay, so okay, Emma, I'm just going to put something in chat for Emma. All right, so I've just put in the chat there that we can hear Emma. All right, now I will have to mute somebody else. If you could please keep your audio on mute for us. Lovely. All right, so let's go through our task 4 part A role play. So you as the student are going to play the First Access Community Centre worker.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, Emma, we can.
It keeps logging me in and out.
Is
and
it?
freezing. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Emma. We're not sure whether you can hear us. And she's gone again. Okay, she's having with that. All right.
All right, I'll just go like that and we'll see if Emma comes back in. Okay, so on we go. So you are the First Access Community Centre worker and you've identified some risks to Monica's life. So she is, Monica is played by the assessor in this role play.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello?
Hi, Emma. I'm just going to see if I can unmute you. Ask to mute. Ask to unmute. All right. So poor Emma's having trouble trying to get in and out by the look of it tonight. All right. Her voice will come back in a minute. You wait. Watch and see. All right. So the assessor is going to play the 14-year-old young person, Monica, who is hesitant at first to talk about what is going on in their life. You are to come across as quite guarded about your situation, but you have met John before and you're reasonably comfortable with them. So once you've opened up to John regarding your current circumstances, you should disclose the following. So if you are playing Monica, you will. Struggling to keep up with schoolwork and feeling overwhelmed about the pressures of life. You admit that you have started experimenting with substances by trying chroming and marijuana. Both just one time when you were really drunk. And you enjoyed feeling free and not having to worry about anything else. Some people in your social circle are involved in what you believe is minor criminal stuff. They asked you to go with them next time they go out on a B&E, which is a break and enter. You said you would go and be their lookout person. It's no big deal. Everyone has done it at least once. So John will be aiming to support you in making some life-changing decisions about what you're actually doing. They will be guiding you towards disclosing what has been happening to your family or to the school counsellor, considering other options as well, such as working with more targeted youth support to help you. To these suggestions, you can be unsure and resistant at first, but agreeable to certain parts. So we can't always get our clients to agree with everything that we think should be intervened. So such as not talking to the school, but yes to talking to your parent. And if this goes well, maybe talking to a counsellor. So you've talked to Monica enough for her to go, yeah, okay, I'll speak to my parents about feeling overwhelmed at school and whatnots, but I don't want you to talk to the school. So there's obviously some work around the school that we need to do, but we need to tread lightly with that if she doesn't want to go there at this point in time. So in your breakout rooms, and there will be two, somebody is going to play Monica. So have a think about you're a 14-year-old, you're struggling with school, you're feeling overwhelmed about the pressures, you are experimenting with substances, chroming. If you've ever done some research on chroming, when they did autopsies and they cut the brains open, the paint would just come out in the colours that they inhaled. So here comes Emma back to, we'll just admit Emma back in, see how she goes. Hi, Emma, we've got you back on. We hope you can hear us. We can hear you. All right. So into our breakout rooms we are going to go. Remember, who's going to play Monica? You've got a few things happening to you. You've got a group that you're with that are doing some minor crime, want you to be the lookout girl. You're taking drugs and chroming and smoking marijuana when you're already drunk. So that makes her very vulnerable. And at 14, that's
can be disastrous. So I want you to think about the employee who will play John, and how are you going, if you're going to play John, how are you going to get Monica to open up to you about what's going on with her, and how are you going to convince her that she needs to involve her parents? All right, because most of us are reluctant to tell our parents anything. So if you can convince a young person to do that, usually you have to be there as support. That makes them a little bit happier about having to disclose things to parents. All right, so we're going to stop recording. Excellent. So we just had our breakout room, our second one for the evening, and we went through our task 4 part A, where we practiced that role play within our groups. So we were either participants or we were observers. So it helps us to be able to understand some of the things that we need to do in that. So could I get someone from room 1 to maybe discuss what happened in that room?
Well, I was the observant for the first time, so it wasn't as scary that I thought it would be. Yeah, I look just a discussion with the guys. It just is more let the youth to run through the discussion, really, the more than pointed. I mean, Lachlan made a very great point, is like sometimes it's better to go for a walk in the park than just sitting down at the table, and just to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. You probably end up that they open up a little bit more. They're just being sitting down in front of each other. So yeah, that's give me a good insight of how to approach a little bit better. So I actually feel much more relaxed today after I've done it. So no, it's been good. Like everyone had a great ideas. So
Yeah,
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, yeah. I had a few reluctant ones in the room, but when you don't know how to start something off, it's hard to go, yeah, I'll do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no idea what's going on. I don't even know how to start. Yeah, but I'll try. That's really difficult. And so Braden did that beautifully. So that was really good for our group to be able to watch how difficult it can be when we start questioning. But I love that, Virginia. Can you imagine walking down the beach with a youth just chatting and just releasing all that stuff that's there? They're grounded, we've got their shoes off. They're just in that space where they're comfortable enough to just let forth with what is happening.
Yeah, and I think doing that, it make you feel like, I think the words come out easy once you start doing that. They're sort of are more sitting down and more seriously things. So yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, and you'd get more from a young person walking along the beach than you would, on the other side of a desk.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm on the floor with them. If they're on the floor, I'm on the floor. Sometimes I can't get back up, but I'm on the floor. Anyway, that's good. Anybody else have anything to say about that? Blake, what did you think?
No, everyone did quite well. We sort of flew through the role play at the start, but the discussion after it was very, very valuable. But it is true. It's I've always believed that sort of being in a room, it feels very, I guess you'd say, clinical. You don't always feel like opening up when you're in a situation like that. Coming from the young person's perspective, it's very overwhelming. Sometimes, just being out in nature, as you said, grounding yourself can do wonders for people. Fantastic. And the key point that I bring up in a lot of stuff like this, especially with youth, is let them lead the conversation. Ask your questions there, but don't make them direct. Why do you think this, or what do you reckon of that stuff? stuff like that, rather than like direct, what are you doing that for? Like, it doesn't, like, there's a big difference. A key thing too is, I won't ramble on for too long. I have a habit of doing that, but the key thing too is like, instead of asking something like what's wrong, it's like, try to avoid that, because if you ask what's wrong, then you've made the assumption that something's wrong with that person rather than the situations. Always try to avoid stuff like direct stuff like that, and avoid the assumptions around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. All right, so we're running a bit late, but I'll blame that on the program manager. So that's all good. So I'm going to stop the record. So thanks everyone. We've just come back from our break. We have 35 people on site at the moment, which is wonderful. All right, so we're going to have another look at our slides before we go back into having a look at the part B's to our role plays. So I'm just going to share with you. What happened to that? There it is. All right, so I'm just going to put this over there. So if we have a look, we're talking about ethics. And ethics will come up everywhere where you work. It wouldn't matter where you worked, but when we work with people, it becomes more of a something that we have to be aware of. So sources of information on ethical principles and practices. Now, there is a code of ethics. I want you to have a look. Find the code of ethics. Have a look in your first access simulated workplace. I also want you to have a look at the Learner's Guide, Chapter 3.3, and the codes of practice, maybe more specific to an industry, a code of practice. But we do have codes of ethics and we do have codes of practice. So you will need to know what they are and what the difference is with those. All right, lovely. So we are down to making an ethical decision. So when we come across an ethical dilemma, we have to really think about, well, how can we best make a good decision with that ethical dilemma? So we have to really define the problem. So we have to dissect that problem. What is it about? What does it look like? Turn it inside out. We need to define the problem. And then we have to reflect. Reflect on the ethical parts of that problem. We have to consider any options that we might need to decide on, or courses of action that we might need to take. We have to investigate possible outcomes. We have to decide on decisions. And we have to make, we have to evaluate the results and the outcomes that happen. So we really need to think about issues when we've got them and just dissect them to make sure that we cover ourselves when we're looking at ethical dilemmas. So let's think about if we're going to make an ethical decision. What do we have to think about when we do that? So competing rights and duties, there will be some conflicts with that in some of these ethical decisions that you will need to make. Competing obligations of the organisation, of the client, of the support worker. And there could be some competing values. Now, remember, we talked about values earlier on. All right. So we need to think about what we're doing here in this space. Now, if we have a look in your Learner's Guide, Chapter 3.5, nurturing involves validating their feelings, providing physical affection and comfort when sought, laughing and playing games,
providing safe mental, physical, and social challenges that promote healthy growth. So have a look in your learner's guide for a little bit more on that. But we need to nurture. We need to nurture our children. So trust and working ethically with children and young people. So working ethically means safeguarding the rights and interests of children and young people. And that's what we really need to concentrate on. What are their rights? In the earlier slide, you saw that we looked up the rights of children. And that's something that you will need to research. Another case study that I'd like you to have a look at, chapter 3.6, Empowering Children. Well worth the read. It also gives you ideas on questions to ask and how to relate to questions that are said. So the case studies will help you and guide you in the words that you need to use in your role plays. So I want you to have a look at this. It's from the Commission for Children and Young People. It is a standard, number 3. It's about empowering their rights. So I want you to have a look at that. It goes for 10 minutes and 15 seconds, and it will be well worth it because you will then need to put this into practice in your role plays. So reporting unethical conduct. Now, you may come across this at some stage or other, and you may have to put this into play. So if we have a look at chapter 3.7, you will find that when reporting, following the organisation's policies and procedures is a must. You have to do that. If you do not, you are actually causing a breach within that organisation. Refer to the organisation's code of conduct. There it is again. Your code of ethics, service standards, or legislation. So you've got to remember all these things when you are reporting. Describe observations accurately, clearly, and objectively. Do not come from your worldview. Avoid personal and emotive comments. So you have to watch your boundaries. You have to make sure that they are secure and that you don't question in a way that is going to upset or freeze that client. So we really need to build that rapport and have soft questions that will make that person feel at ease at the start especially. So include the information, who's involved. So when we're reporting, we want to know who is it that we're reporting about? Who was involved? What happened? So what it was, when it happened, and where it happened needs to go in your reporting. So you will need to do this for Justin and you'll need to do it for Monique. What happened, when did it happen, and where did it happen? Reason the conduct is considered unethical, citing relevant legislation and policies. Oh, I did not report that incident of abuse to child safety because I thought the child was just being naughty. So you can see from that, I have made that my own personal value of what I believed happened in that situation. So I've removed the rights of the child in that by doing that. So we have to be really careful with how we work with young people. Actions you have taken and the response to those actions need to be in your case notes. So you're writing a case note about Justin. Who's involved in that? Well, there is his mum, and then there's Paul, and then there's, who else have we got in that? His mum, Paul, and Justin. I think it was just the 3 of them. So what happened? Well, the boy disclosed that he was hit across the back with a belt and has a mark from a buckle. When did this happen? When Paul was living there, but he's now moved. Where was it? It was in my bedroom. All right. He came into my room and hit me. All right. So we need to then, we will become unethical if we do not report that. All right, so we need to do that. And the first person we will report it to is our manager or supervisor. And then they will probably tell us, now I want you to do this, this, and this. So then you have direction. You're not on your own in these circumstances, so please always ask for help. Online safety is a big deal in this day and age, and I can't stress to my clients enough about not putting naked pictures of themselves on their mobile devices and sending them to other people. If a mother goes into the police and shows them naked pictures of anyone that have been sent to her by, say, another mother, she can be charged with having pornographic minors material on her phone. So you really have to be careful with how you go about reporting to a certain degree. But we've got to remember, safety online. Grooming happens online. Unfortunately, our kids get sucked into friends and acquaintances that they really don't know who they are. They can be exposed to violence or sexually explicit content online. I don't think we realised how big it was going to get when we first got the internet. We just thought it was marvellous until all the pitfalls and all the bad things that happen there come out. Bullying happens online. The risk of being located, people can track you online. So we really have to be careful and make kids aware that not everybody online is going to be that friendly, nice person that we would hope that they would be. I'm going to get you to do a little bit of research. It will help you in answering your questions. So they're looking at Online Safety Act. What is it? When was it put into place? I'd love to see that in some of your answers for your questions. If you have any on online safety, I want you to think about the Online Safety Act. What is that? When was that there? And you've got a link there as well for it. So they make it pretty easy for you. If you were doing research for the university, you would have to find this stuff. They wouldn't actually give it to you. So we're pretty privileged with what we can use. Now, this is what we were talking about before, professional boundaries. We've got to be really careful that we do not accept money or gifts from anyone in the working environment. Giving a client special treatment is also looking at crossing your boundaries. Disclosing personal information about yourself can sometimes re-traumatize people. So we have to be careful with disclosure. And I go, no disclosure if you can possibly help it. That would be better. Now I have a hand raised. I have a question.
Yeah, just a question about disclosing personal information about yourself. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're trying to build some trust and rapport with a kid, for example, and you're trying to, establish some common ground, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't disclose, personal information about yourself, how are you meant to, build that common ground with let's say someone who's maybe someone who's 10 years old, for example? How are you meant to build that trust and rapport and build common ground with that person?
Well, you could use your life experience, and absolutely it is worth it to know how to deal with that situation if you've been through it before. But you really have to be careful with exposing that child to anything that might be traumatic for them. So when I was 10, my father used to beat me up severely, and that information may trigger that young person. So we have to be a little bit careful. It could be that we use, I knew someone that went through this, and this is what happened to them. We may be able to, make it a third person rather than ourselves. And we have to be careful with what we disclose to our clients, because they can sometimes turn us and use it against us. So, and being young children, don't really realize what they're doing. So we have to be careful with that. And yeah, don't expose too much of yourself, because that makes you vulnerable, and you are their support person. So keep in that role, but understand what they're going through. And you could say, well, I actually know, I understand what you're going through. So without actually telling them, you can go, I understand what you're going through. So that may be able to break those barriers a little bit more without disclosing too much. But I love that question. Well done. Providing your personal contact details. No. Social networking. No, we don't like you to be friends with them on Facebook and things like that. If you are working in a professional space, you must stay in that zone. All right. Contacting a client outside of work hours is not acceptable. And it becomes an ethical dilemma when we start to do things like that. Inviting a client to your home or to your family's activities. It's not something that we like to do. We like to keep our personal life separate from our work life. Yes, another question. I see a hand.
So in regards to not us as workers contacting our client after work hours, what if the tables were turned when they were? Is that ethical if we work outside those hours? If they were to contact us and say, "Hey, blah blah, I'm feeling this way. Are you helping me? Are we favoring that said client?" Or
it can be seen to do that, because if your shift is finished, your shift is finished.
Yeah.
You need your personal space.
Wouldn't that I know it's like thinking, but for like such a youth, wouldn't that be, if we've built that trust with that said youth, and would that become unethical? Because I think as youth workers, we should be available to. I mean, I know there is a boundary, but would that put that said youth in more harm if we refuse to?
Yeah, we really need to stay on our lane, and if we blur the lines, then we make ourselves vulnerable. Blake, what would you say in this situation? Thank you, Dawn. That was excellent.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's quite dangerous to sort of cross those boundaries for you too, because it's sort of, if you let it happen once, like you may have the best intention at heart behind it, but it means that you could become a more of a figure they rely on outside of your general work scope, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's sort of, once something like that happens once, it sort of can open up a floodgate. Then sort of your boundaries there are then blurred as much as theirs are.
Say we would say, hey, I can give you to another colleague of mine.
Yep.
And just pass it on like that. So
yeah, that's probably the best bet. Refer them to sort of, like, if it's like a split shift situation, like you've got people that work later than you and stuff like that, pass them on, because it is hard, especially when you get into the sort of ethics behind it all, because you don't really want to let that client down, but you don't want to cross a personal boundary or one of your organization's boundaries.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Thank you.
they wouldn't always have your personal phone either, would they? Usually.
No. You wouldn't go giving out your personal number, but some workplaces, not all, some will require you to have your work phone at home. Like sometimes it just goes in the drawer at night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just for safety reasons and privacy reasons of your own. You might hear it ring and just pick it up out of curiosity.
Good work.
Sophie, you have a question?
No, beautiful. Velma, have you got something to say? Yep. Good.
Yeah, I just have a question about this is not related to the learning, but it's about, let's say, for example, you know how nurses have like a union to help them if they say they give a wrong medication to a person, because the people can back them up. Is there anything like that for people working in like a youth sector? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, well, I know with your social work, you have the AASW. With your psychologists, they have APA. Blake, do you know of any unions in the youth sector?
No, I'm not too sure on that one. Sorry, it's a bit out of my scope. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. There would be something that governs it. So that might need further exploring. Well done. Great question. All right, Sophie? Sophie, your
Hey,
hand up? Yep.
Hey, yeah, I just had a question about, I think it was slide 61.
Mhm.
Are you able to just flick
You want to go
back
back?
to that really quickly? Sorry. It
That's
was it was a boundary question. It was the one about like the nurturing children and the one before, I think.
61, I've got one more.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, so providing physical affection and comfort when sought. So this is something that confuses me, and we haven't covered it in the course yet. It might be to come, so we don't have to talk about it tonight. But it's a question I have about, like, if a child wants a hug or they engage, like they want to give you a hug, what do you do in that situation? Are you allowed to hug them back? Like, yeah.
I usually with mine, it's a high five. So I'll go, here, high five. and kids will normally, yeah, okay, high five. Some of them do get very clingy. Yeah, you have to be very careful of that. Blake, what do you do in circumstances where this happens to you?
So I'd say with a situation like that, it's it'd come under the same thing as your like comfortability, like in the workplace, like your sexual harassment and stuff like that. It'd come under the sort of where's that comfort, like what's okay to do, like where's that comfort lie, where's that comfort. If you're okay accepting a hug and they're okay accepting a hug, then that's all right, depending on if your workplace policies allow stuff like that. But it's where you're comfortable and where they're comfortable. Like,
So would you generally, like, sorry, would you, like, if you were starting in a new role, just ask, like, your supervisor, I guess, at the time, what their kind of, what their company does?
Yep. I'd ask the question straight out if it's something that you're worried about, because a lot of the time it will be discussed in your inductions and stuff like that, what is appropriate for the company to do and what isn't. But yeah, never hesitate to ask for something, especially around topics like that in the individual workplace. But I'd say, about 8 times out of 10, it'd all be up to your personal comfort and their personal comfort.
Working in sexual assault, thank you, Sophie. Working in sexual assault, we try not to touch our clients because of that very reason. You know, so even if they wanted to give me a hug, I'd still go the high five. But it might be that I would ask them, you know, would you like a hug? But usually we don't. We'll high five the kids. All right, but we usually don't touch them. Yeah, Virginia, did you have something to say with that one?
Yeah, no, another thing is that what about if you see the client, the kids on the street, when you go shopping, how do you deal with that? Did you acknowledge them and
That's
you move on?
something that I talk to them about in the session. So I go, look, if I saw you in the street, I'm not going to acknowledge you unless you acknowledge me. And I probably won't talk to you in the street, because that may cause people to go, who's that? What's that about? And they may not want that information out. So I go, look, if I see you, I might give you a nod and just keep walking. Don't think that I'm being rude. It's just unethical of me to maybe chat to you in the middle of the street, especially if you bring up something that really is not, you know, for public awareness. So yeah, I always say to them, look, I won't acknowledge you, but if you're okay with it, I might give you a nod and then just keep walking. Yeah.
Okay,
What do
thank you.
you do, Blake, in that space?
So I've got a lot of experience of that because I work with a broad range of people. So it seems every time I leave the house, I run into someone that I have in my meetings or stuff like that. Let them engage in the conversation if they want to come up and say g'day. Keep it casual, just a quick hello, stuff like that. Don't delve too deep into it, to my advice, but wait for them. If they want to come up and say hello to you, that's fine. I wouldn't see them in a supermarket and sort of run up and start talking to them. I'd let them initiate it. A small wave and that can't hurt, stuff like that. But yeah, you've just got to be wary. The person, especially depending on the role, the assistance they're seeking may be something quite personal. And for you to sort of like say you're sort of known for an organization that deals with stuff like that, you going up and talking to them could sort of be a big flag for everyone around. It's like, oh, this person's seeing them for this reason. So it's wait for them to approach you is probably my best advice for that one.
Yeah,
I
we
find
had
that, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
we had a
John,
good discussion in our last role play, didn't we,
Lachlan?
Blake?
Yeah,
about that, because I asked the question of like, if probably an older youth, what if they asked what do I call you, if you know, I mean, it could be like something like mentor instead of youth worker or something like that. So Blake brought up a few good ideas about that as well, and we had, I think it was maybe Crystal, maybe she said something about seeing someone while they're shopping or something and all that. So we had a good discussion about that, which was good.
Yeah, in my line of work, it gets very. I've got to be very careful because I don't want people to see that person is seeing someone from the organisation that I work for. So yeah, I like to keep that. The hardest thing I find, because Bundaberg is a small place, is the mums wanting to come and talk to you in the middle of the supermarket. That's like, well, I'm running. I'm not really running, but I'm going, right, no worries, no, not appropriate here. I'll catch you later. You know, I've really got to shut them down because they can take advantage of that. Natalie.
I just thought I'd just pop in my 2 cents. I actually, where I work where I live. And obviously I do dental with a lot of kids and they do run up and they go to hug your legs and whatever. I'm out with my family, so I've got that boundary. I just go, hi, mate. And I just keep walking and they kind of know it and they'll see me later on. And I'll go, yeah, I saw you at the street. That was so cool. But, you know, they're like, oh, you didn't say hi. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm doing my own thing. I'll see you when I'm here. Just clear, set boundaries. Kids know it pretty quick. And when they go to hug your legs, I normally keep my hands where it's visible because you never know, someone's watching.
Yep. And we are in the public eye. So remember that when we work with youth, we are being watched. All right. Right. For all the right reasons, you know, because we're doing all the right things. All right. So I am just going to stop sharing that because we've run out of time there. All right. So what I would like to go through is a couple of things on, and we haven't got much time. So if we were looking at, say, let's look at our 5-year-old, Justin. Now you're going to have to explain in a verbal report. So really I go, you will have this written down, regardless of whether it's verbal. Just the things that happened in that role play, in that interview with Justin. So you're going to be looking at things like you have to indicate in that role play part B to your John Ford, the head of care, that you did speak to Justin's mum. You reported the situation to child safety. You reported the situation to the police. Write a full report accurately detailing all events that took place to date. So these are some of the things that you are going to say within your verbal conversation with this John Ford, the manager. And it can be done by a trainer because John Ford can be played by an assessor. So You will be able to do that with a trainer. So just remember that. Remember what happened in your role play. What was happening to our little Justin? Now, how am I going to relay that to the boss in factual terms and not leave out anything? So what I like to do with these scenarios is highlight all the things that to me are red flags. Very, very important. Now, if we have a look, and you've also got a template of case notes. So I want you to use those templates to help you to be able to get that information down on paper so you can verbally report it. The other one for task 4, part A, is also a report to your supervisor. So they are very, very similar to each other. And we're still looking for the same sort of things. We spoke to Monica's parents. We reported the situation to child safety because of her risk taking. We put down what happened as close to the dates and times and how many times that it happened. We wrote all that down. And make sure that you say in these reports that Monica's parents were asked to come in, and we had a discussion with Monica's parents and Monica in that scenario. So always read through your role play notes. I hope tonight has given you a little bit more of a understanding of how you can work in that space. You will be doing things like this in that space, so it's very, very important for you to do that. I'm going to open the floor for a few more questions, but I am going to stop our recording now.